Welcome to Three Scoops Podcast. I'm Ron.
I'm Kel.
And I'm Rob.
So what are we talking about today, guys?
Well, while you were absent, Rob and I sat
I've been right here, buddy.
While you were absent from work, Rob and I were sitting there. We had a slow evening, so we decided to think up some fun top 10 lists.
Oh, okay.
So we've went ahead and we've pre-formulated a few. Today we're going to start out with the top 10 cinematic iconic heroes of all time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to work down in reverse order and
based on what we think.
Oh,
yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Totally excluding
your
opinion.
I have no input on this one.
Yeah. We didn't want Emmett from Lego Movie to be number
What? When have I ever
3
mentioned
kids,
that?
buddy. I don't know. Where you judgment subject to change.
Okay. What do you got? What's number 10?
Number 10, Katniss Everdeen.
What the? Really?
So
I mean, what?
Yeah.
Were those movies even good?
they were good. I thought they were. I thought they were
think
decent.
So. I didn't think they were that good, but I think we kind of, part of it was we wanted this list to be encompassing a lot of other people too. So we actually tried to think of some other people when we made the list. I'm not saying she's not a hero in the movie, but I mean, if I was just making my individual top 10 list, she wouldn't make it. But I tried to kind of think of this as an all-time for everybody. And I felt like if she wasn't on the list, we'd be leaving out a lot of people who do like those movies. The younger people like Kel.
Okay, are there people that actually?
Yeah.
Are there people that
At
actually
30,
like
I'm
this
very
character?
young.
Because I mean, I just felt like she was a dumb archer that was thrust into a really crappy situation, and then she didn't do that many things that I felt were that heroic.
Well,
Yeah.
this is a series that's also adapted from books, so there is a larger base, and I think we all know.
But we're talking
reading
about the
books
cinematic
that were
versions of these characters.
We
right?
are,
We
but at
are,
the same
yeah.
time, there's a lot of people that went into that movie with a predisposition to relate to the character, and they, even though the backstory and the details weren't portrayed necessarily in the film, they already identified with those, and they had those precursors in their mind. When they went in to see the film, it was a big box office hit.
Definitely.
It is adapted from a very successful, I believe, trilogy of books.
Yeah.
And it is iconic. If you're going to go around and talk to young women from ages 12 to 30, a lot of them are going to identify with this hero.
Do people still care about this character in 2019?
In 2019, I believe so.
Okay.
I think they do. I think there's people that definitely have the Katniss Everdeen posters, little girls up in their room, and still have the book series at home and are reading and rereading and own the DVDs. I think it's, for us, white cisgendered males, I don't know how relative it is, but like Rob was saying, we want to make it relatable. We want to make this list, as open to the masses as we can. We're not just trying to go through our scope. We're trying to create a top 10 list we think most people could agree with.
Okay.
So that was kind of our one of our aims
Okay.
in working towards this. So that being said, you saw the movies, Rob, right?
Yeah, I did.
What did you think of her as a character or as a heroine?
I'm kind of with Ron on this. I mean, she wasn't relatable to me, but I mean, that's okay. But my biggest part was this, is I had a really hard time getting past the premise of the movie or the movies or the story. I mean, I read nothing but fantasy, but the story itself was ridiculous, in my opinion. But a lot of the dystopian books are, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So-
I agree. Post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, the whole, we only got this much food and we're going to put you in districts and people aren't just going to revolt already, and it already hasn't happened. And it just, the whole, premise to me was just, it was like we needed a reason to have these games to fight, and we couldn't think of anything, or we didn't want to spend the time to flesh it out, so we just thought of this. That's the way I felt. But as her as a character, she was interesting enough to where I was when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, yeah, I don't want her to die. I want her to succeed. So I can kind of see that.
And like I was saying too, from what I understand, talking to people that have read the book series, I have some friends and family that are big fans of the Mockingjay book series. They do a lot to establish the backstory for the dystopian future that this series takes place in. They do a lot to explain the wars and the crises that led up to it, more so than the movie. So
Yeah.
like I said, even though they didn't flesh it out in the film, a lot of people went into this movie with extra backstory details. It's like Ron or I going into a Marvel movie. Because of our extended delve into comics and our extended history with comics, we have a little bit more to go off of, where it's like, oh, this guy developed a suit that lets him shoot repulsor beams out of his hands and chat bullshit. And it's like, no, they actually, in comic 387, they actually flesh out the technology quite a bit. It's there's people coming into it with a little bit more information than we had initially. So that's something I think too to take into consideration when thinking about how hokey it seems.
Looking at your example, you have someone like me who's never read any of those comics. I had no problem believing it.
Yeah.
For Iron Man.
Yeah.
Because the magic systems are magic systems, whether they're going to be technological or not. The overarching premise of Iron Man wasn't ridiculous.
True enough.
That's the way I looked at it. Now, having read these books and having read, let's say, Harry Potter books, I thought Harry Potter translated way better to the screen than these books did.
Fair enough.
But
me personally, I thought basically, since we are talking about Katniss, right? Not just the books.
Yeah.
But,
her as a hero or a heroine.
Okay, so I did think she did something pretty cool, and that was right at the very end when she did not execute what's his face, Donald Sutherland's character.
Yeah.
She executed the other lady. It's been a while since I've seen these movies, so I forgot all the characters' names. But
she subverted expectations while taking out the person that's actually the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
That was probably the only cool thing that I remember seeing her do.
Yeah. Well, that being said, she has standard hero character traits. She has a strong will and indomitable spirit. She has courage, bravery. She exhibits the will and the willingness to stand up and fight back against the oppressors and help others when it's, available to her. So, she makes the list at number 10. We're giving her the number 10
so
spot.
let's go on. Let's go on this list.
Go ahead.
Oh, I've got a copy of this list. So we're going from Katniss Everdeen to Superman.
Oh, yeah.
Now having been intimately involved in making this list, Ron, what do you think about Superman?
I think that Superman is head and shoulders of more heroic than Katniss Everdeen.
Because this is a specific list, I do want to state, in fact, that we do have actor portrayals for each one of the roles picked, and Rob and I agreed that the Christopher Reeves Superman is the Superman that we're referencing from the original Superman series. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So just so we're all clear, we're not, we're not looking at Ripley's Believe It or Not Dean Cain portraying 30-year-old, 19-year-old Superman. So
I thought he did great.
I bet you did. Ripley's Believe It or Not.
So, I mean, to be honest, my only dispute with this pick is that I personally think that Superman should be higher on the list.
Okay, so with that thought, I personally think Superman should not be on the list.
Oh, okay. So why?
Superman is not an interesting character. He's not an interesting hero, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, he's an iconic hero that people see. He's not an interesting hero because he doesn't have that growth. He doesn't have those limitations. So to me, what makes an interesting hero is them having shortcomings that they have to overcome, where Superman, the villains are always more interesting than he is.
Yeah.
And how can they find a way to foil someone who can basically do everything?
I had to fight tooth and nail to get Superman on this list.
Really?
with Rob and I constructing it.
Well, I mean, clearly he's more deserving on this list than Katniss.
The iconicism.
Definitely for iconicism, for recognizableness, whatever you want to call that. He's not a good hero, in my opinion, for what I think of a classic hero.
Okay, so
how is that
he's
more like an elemental force?
Because I mean, he kind of heroically saves a whole lot of people.
I think the thing where Superman finds value, and the reason that I did fight tooth and nail with Rob to get him on this list, is because he represents that archetype, the perfect man archetype, where even if he's not particularly interesting as an individual in his personality or struggles, he represents the higher standard that all other heroes measure themselves to.
The ideal.
Yeah, he represents the ideal, the perfect, infallible, 99% of the time being that is incorruptible.
Not completely infallible. I mean, he failed at one point.
I said 99%.
He actually had to, which was ridiculous, but he had to fly in reverse around the world multiple times to turn back time.
When you have to think of ridiculous things to make problems for your hero's probably a little OP. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I have no doubt.
I'm just saying, when you're like what he was talking about, what Kel was talking about with the archetypal heroes. So you're either going to have in generic terms, you're going to have your Superman, or you're going to have your Everyman, and your Everyman hero is always more entertaining. And
Okay, so
more
I would like
relatable
to-
than your Superman.
I would like to compare Superman right now to Captain Marvel. Okay.
Okay.
So because I feel like
No,
he's-
don't do
I
that.
feel like
What are
these
you
characters-
talking about?
I think
feel
you're
like-
sidetracking right now. You're
Well,
off
we're
the
talking-
rails
no,
because
we're-
Captain Marvel
He has a point to
is
make.
not on our list.
He has a point to make.
We're talking about Superman, and
Okay.
so we were just talking about Captain Marvel just a couple months ago.
Okay.
Okay. So these characters I feel like are very similar. Okay, in that they're extremely overpowered, right? However, with Captain Marvel's character, you don't like. She's really hard to relate to because she's very bland. You know, her personality is very bland.
I would argue Superman is also very bland.
No, I thought Superman was much more charismatic, especially we're talking about Christopher Reeves. Yeah.
Charismatic in the way, like, in
I
the way
thought
that
he
a
was- I thought he was
salesman
mu-
is charismatic on the car lot, trying to
think-
talk me into buying a sedan.
I think Siri is more charismatic than Superman.
Really?
I don't think that's the. I think we're looking at the wrong argument, though. The reason that Superman made this list is obviously, one, because of his iconicism. Two, he represents the ideal that all other superheroes in the DC universe hold themselves up to. Billy Badson's Shazam, who's arguably, the second closest, OP superhero in reference to the DC universe to Superman. All those other characters look up to him as the standard. When Superman comes to the fight and he comes in at the last minute, everyone goes, oh yeah, and they're fighting boners, get all hard, dude, and they get super amped up because they know he's there to save them. He's like the Jesus archetype. He's the perfect infallible man that resurrects himself every time a building falls on top of him or he gets blasted by Darkseid's what are the beams.
Yeah, I forget what those are.
Yeah, I
called.
forget what they're called too, and I'm sure we'll get razzed in the comments
yeah.
for that. But it's that tale as old as time. It's the man that is infallible. He gets beaten, but he never stays down. He's afraid, or he's in danger, but he's not afraid. It's
Right.
that kind of overcoming every obstacle in his way ideal. But as a person, is Clark Kent as a person, or Superman as a personality? I agree with Rob on this one. Isn't super hot, no pun intended. In my opinion, charismatic or intriguing or interesting, or there's no emotional turmoil there that I can tie myself to in relation to try to relate. But he is super powerful. Ice breath, laser beam, super strength, fly around the world backwards, turn it around.
But you know what? He's also just trying to make his way in the world. That's what I identified with.
I'm just trying to eke out an existence being stronger than every other person I've ever met.
So he's trying to rein it in, though.
I understand.
As Clark Kent, and he has something to protect there. He has his identity to protect.
Yes.
Okay, so there is a sense of danger in that he's going to lose basically what he clings onto as humanity.
Yeah.
So
It's a juggling act.
Right. So
I guess I just find heroes more interesting when their struggle is
More dire.
Do I want to be the hero? Am I the person that should be the hero? Where Clark is more, I already am the hero. That's obvious. Which one am I going to save if I can only save one?
Well,
That's it. Just like I'm already the strongest. What am I going to do with that?
But okay, so you have his conflict against General Zod and his other lieutenants, I guess.
Yeah, I hate to interrupt. Remember when Zod takes off his little chest piece and he throws it, or Superman takes off his little chest cellophane and throws it at Zod, and it shrink wraps around him for like a second and it mildly inconveniences him, and then he's like, what the fuck was that? And he gets up and had no effect on it. I just thought that was interesting. I thought that was worth mentioning.
Right.
I don't want to stop your thought here, but I think we're going to spend a lot of time on Superman, and we're not going to get to the rest of the list.
Okay. What's the next on the list? I disagree with your list so far.
You want to walk in number 8?
Yeah, so number 8 is Ripley from Alien.
Okay.
And
okay, I like this character.
Sigourney
Okay.
Weaver.
Yeah.
Who was fine in that movie.
Ish.
In the way that, yeah, she's who you'd want to be boning when the apocalypse comes, for sure.
Yeah,
dude.
definitely when she's the only one on the
I
show.
definitely want to put an alien baby in her.
Dude, whoa.
Wow.
Have my
Wow.
seed burst
Where
out
did
of her
that come
chest.
from? Man.
Have to be real full. Hope Brittany doesn't hear this.
Oh no! Don't get me in trouble, guys.
I saw the eye roll.
I was just kidding.
I was just kidding.
I was just kidding, Brittany.
I don't have a lot to say about this character. It's been just because
Why is she on the list?
I like her on the list and everything. I just mean it's been so long since I've seen the movie that I don't have specifics I can talk about.
Okay.
But
well, I mean, she did face
you
off.
Want to know why? You want to know why she's on the list?
Yeah,
because we needed more women.
Oh my God.
No.
Oh
it's
no.
not just for the sake of needing more women, but the fact that she is a super intelligent scientist from the future. She's a qualified astronaut. She's been through all that training. She's braving the cosmos. She encounters one of the ugliest, scariest when I saw the movie first
definitely.
when I was a little kid, shit my pants scary aliens.
Right.
And she conquered them and was it the second one she wore the mech suit? Mm-hmm. And it's like, come on, man. She's bitch.
Yeah, she's definitely overcame the adversity. She definitely used
with
her skills.
no powers.
Yeah,
one of the only people on this list
skills.
with no powers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Ripley, I agree with.
She has all those character traits as well: the bravery, the indomitable spirit, the ingenuity too. I think, and the thinking on her feet in every situation. When a little problem arises, she uses that quick wit and her base in science to apply the scientific theory to the situation to overcome it, which is really cool.
I do remember a lot about her too is I liked the way that she would never stop, but you could definitely tell she was terrified.
Oh,
so
yeah.
She was overcoming. She did a very good job as an actress of portraying that terror.
Well, and in that situation that she was in, how could you not be terrified?
Yeah.
I was just watching it in the movie theater as a child, and I was terrified.
Yeah.
But that goes back to that old adage that danger is real, but fear is a choice. Is fear going to help you overcome an obstacle? No, it's not.
It's not.
But the recognition of the danger is something that's necessary, and she displays that. I mean, Sigourney Weaver, what a wonderful actress.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, she's been in so many movies that are just outstanding actress. All the praise in the world to Sigourney Weaver.
Okay. So next I see you guys got Harry Potter.
So why did you choose Harry Potter for this list, Ron?
Okay, I'm going to tell you why I would have chosen Harry Potter. He was the boy who lived.
He was a wizard. Harry.
You're a wizard, Harry.
No fucking way.
Really, Harry Potter over Ripley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely.
Why?
Bare
he
minimum?
lived?
No. Bare minimum is power set.
Power set.
Okay, so he's a wizard, just like
iconicism too.
a whole bunch of the other wizards
got a lot of different
there.
factors here.
I mean, why not make Hermione?
Because it's Harry Potter.
She wasn't.
The boy who lived.
Yeah, she wasn't the. She was a hero in the story, but she wasn't the main hero in the story.
She was definitely like smarter than Harry. She definitely had a better mastery of the spells and stuff. But he had the I don't know what you want to call it, the willingness to sacrifice the never stop, the stumble upon things. I don't think she did it as much. Ron
Ron Weasley.
He's got red hair, man. Come on.
Yeah, no gingers on this fucking list.
Wait,
Harry though, man. I mean, he lived, but also too, I think it's one of those awesome stories where somebody is the hero and they have a destiny about them. Everyone knew that he was bound to be this hero, and even with all that surrounding pressure on him of expectations of society, of the shadow of his parents, of everything that was expected of him to overcome, to fulfill the prophecies, he still did it. He didn't let any of that weigh him down, and he didn't focus so much on the expectation as he did on trying to be a good person and do the things that were morally righteous in the correct moments, and basing it off the information that he had available to him.
And he's just more identifiable than Hermione. And I'm not saying to me because I'm a man. I just mean I think people in those situations in school, they kind of remember being that one, like, why am I doing what the teachers are telling me when I can see that this is what we should be doing? He really portrays that. I'm not saying Hermione couldn't have, but she was more we have to follow the rules. What are you doing, Harry? So he had more attachment to me. Because that's how I was in school.
Being an obstinate young man, constantly wandering off and getting into trouble.
Yeah.
I can also relate.
Okay.
Do you relate more with Hermione as the hero? Or was that you in school? Were you like hey guys, I know the teacher's out of the room, but let's not throw paper balls at each other?
No, I definitely threw paper balls.
Okay, good. Good.
All right, so again, I disagree with this pick. So what's the next one?
Okay, so why did you put Rocky on the list, Ron?
Oh, God. This is not my list. Rocky, really? Rocky
Balboa.
over Ripley.
Whoa. Let me just go on record as saying Rocky wouldn't make my top 100.
Okay.
But
Whoa,
how could he not, buddy?
Kellen.
How could he not make your top 100? 100?
No, I don't.
You could not
Kel.
think of. We had a hard time thinking of 25 characters for this.
Rocky,
We were
number
trying
6,
to get it
really.
in the top 10.
Rocky comes in. Rocky Balboa. Sylvester Stallone's portrayal as Rocky Balboa.
I think we were talking to
makes
too
the
many,
list
too many
at
old
number
guys
6.
at work when we were doing this list, so we wanted to make them feel.
Oh,
like they had a
you
hero.
wanted to impress the old guys.
Yeah.
It shows.
Listen, no.
I
Rocky Balboa.
disagree with this pick.
Comes up from. When was the last time you watched all 19 Rocky movies? Okay, in succession, without any breaks or restroom breaks or food breaks.
I watched Creed in the theater.
I'm gonna clear my throat in an agitated way.
But I did not watch Creed 2.
I like Rocky as a hero. I'm not saying he's not a good hero. He's a good hero of the movie. He's definitely iconic. Everyone knows who he is. I just don't know if he'd quite make my top 10 because I mean he is the hero of the story, but I don't know if I don't see the adversity that he's overcoming being anything more than himself. Right. And I think like a lot of these other guys like and girls, what they're doing is they're trying to save more than themselves. Like they're trying to save the world.
So is Rocky.
Save?
Rocky's
Who does Rocky save? Adrian?
No, his story is his own.
He saves himself, but also he does save more people than himself because he provides hope to all the people that came from the same dire circumstances in the neighborhood that he came from. He rose up above the adversity of the circumstances that he was born into to become the world champion, to knock out Clubber Lang, to finish Hulk Hogan, he's doing all these things in these movies. He fought Apollo Creed.
He didn't stop an alien army coming to destroy the city or anything. That's what I meant.
He didn't, but he lifted up the community that he's from. Yeah, he's the embodiment of hope and a representation of overcoming your circumstances and not being gifted with extreme physical capabilities, like being huge, like Hulk Hogan's portrayal, or like Clubber Lang's portrayal by Mr. T. Or being born into a school for boxing when he was 5 years old, like Apollo Creed was in the movies. He overcame circumstances, his age, his disadvantages, his injuries, his lack of skill, with a pure determination, grit, and willpower. Ran up those stairs, eye of the tiger. Adrian! You caught the chicken, Mick.
I'm not trying to derail your spiel here, but hope doesn't make my top 10 list.
Well, buddy, I think that sometimes when we're looking at whom one saves,
I thought you put in a valiant effort there.
Yeah.
For making the case. I still don't agree. Based on this list alone,
Rocky could beat up Superman. I'm going to say it right.
I would put Rocky while you were saying that, and I still didn't believe you.
I would put Rocky at the bottom of this list. Well, maybe above Katniss.
Rocky comes in on my list at number 101.
Okay, let's move on. Number 5, Neo. Okay, this one
Ron finally agrees. Big surprise.
Well, okay. As far as like being on a list, okay, fine. I could go with Neo. Okay, although he is, very stoic.
Yeah.
In this role, he's very stoic. But he does have that moment where he puts himself against that seemingly unstoppable force, and it almost seems like he sacrifices himself, talking about the end of the first Matrix movie, right?
Yeah.
He definitely does. Yeah, he has the hero archetype down as far as the story goes.
Okay.
So it's iconic as far as people know him, they recognize him. The story is an excellent story, so him fitting in within the story makes it good. He definitely goes for the, I'm just a regular guy who thinks there's something a little bit wrong with the world, to thrust into where he's got the mentored person telling him that he's the chosen one and him not believing it. Right. And then him going through like a journey and talking to the wise person that tells him he's also not the one. And so then he's got this conflict where you're building up where you're like, well, as an audience, he's got to be the one. Otherwise, why are we watching this movie?
Right.
And it just has like a really good journey to the end, then that fulfillment back to the middle. It just, as a character, his journey is good. And it's good enough to where I don't think he's like the best hero, but I would definitely put him on my list.
No, we are just talking about him in reference to just the first movie.
Yes, right? Yes. Well, do you think he goes downhill, or do you think the overall story went downhill with the other two movies?
I think it becomes so convoluted.
I think the whole story went to hell.
But let's say you're
although
a good guy.
The second movie I don't think was
story.
as bad, but the third movie was awful.
Yeah, but I don't think Neo was the contributing factor to those. I think it was the story around him.
Exactly.
I think it was exclusively the white dreaded Agent Smiths
Yeah.
I think that was the downfall.
Yeah.
Or how about they just made Neo into this thing that they make within the Matrix.
Yeah.
You know, Neo is not he isn't even who he was, you know, as a hero. He's just this cog in the wheel that happens to be a portion of the Matrix that they do every once in a while to kind of reset things.
That's a fan theory, though. That hasn't been confirmed.
Well, I mean, that's the plot of the movie, the last movie.
Was that
he's like a correction?
Yeah, he's the correcting. He's like the virus cleanup for the system. But I mean, it's implied, but it's not inferred by any of the actual. I mean, they don't say it directly. I mean, it's heavily implied, but they don't say.
That's what I got out of it.
They don't say it directly, as did I. But that's kind of like a cheesy. It's like, oh, in the last movie, guess what? This guy is McAfee.
He's
virus
not.
cleanup.
He's not even a hero. He's just this thing we do every once in a while.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he has this thing. But I mean, in my opinion, he's still the hero because he of who he is himself and what he's willing to do.
Right.
I think too that's worth mentioning, especially about Neo, especially in and I mean, given he's the only one that's portrayed him in film so far. Keanu Reeves' portrayal of Neo is that his stoic manner that you referred to earlier definitely gives him that blank face, blank slate. Oh, I can impress myself upon this guy. I can relate to him because he has so little personality from the time that he's just Mr. Anderson to the time that he develops into the one, Neo, which isn't obviously, without saying anagram for a one, Neo, O-N-E. He's so relatable because he has a lack of personality that he is definitely in every man's hero, rising up from being a simple computer programmer to being.
Does that mean everyone is named Neo?
Oh, dude, it can be.
Or do they sometimes call him Eno?
Or they might call him Owen. Hey, Owen.
Owen.
Without the W.
Owen.
Moving on. Coming in at number 4. Are we ready to move on from Neo?
Yeah, sure. Okay, James Bond. Which version of James Bond are we talking about?
We kind of talked about Pierce Brosnan just because he's like, I think just partly because of our age and partly because he in my opinion, he resonates as a James Bond.
The 25 to 35 age demographic. I think he's the one that we knew from the video games.
Yep.
N64, big shout out.
Yeah.
GoldenEye.
Oh yeah. So what about him? I mean, why him over Neo? Why him over Harry Potter? Why him over Ripley?
I think the big thing is the wish fulfillment for a young man. You know, this is coming from my eyes as a young man growing up in America. The wish fulfillment of, oh man, look at this cool, sophisticated Englishman from overseas
who drives a tank down the street.
Who has, this Aston Martin. He's drinking cocktails on the go. He's, sleeping around with all these, exquisite women of different cultural backgrounds. He's shooting people. He's doing it all with quippy one-liners. And, I think that fan fulfillment, he's so much. I mean, if you compare him to, the previous people on the list, Neo, Rocky, Harry Potter, Ripley, Superman, Katniss Everdeen, especially the male heroes on the list, he's so much cooler. He's so much more suave. He has this air of infallibility about him that's not just from like a righteous point of view, but he can make no wrong move. Nothing's ever going to come out of his mouth. He's never going to stumble his words. He's never going to say, "Hi, it's nice to meet you." He's never. There's no mistakes that he's going to make. Everything is, generally speaking, smooth.
What I like about James Bond is he is awesome, and he uses his awesomeness to solve the problems. And when the problem gets bigger, he just gets more awesome.
Yeah, he's like Batman.
Okay, I can agree with that.
He has an awesome utility belt. And the reason Pierce Brosnan, too, I think Rob and I touched on this, was that Pierce Brosnan, if you look at the Sean Connery James Bond, or if you look at
the Roger Moore,
or if you look at
Daniel Craig,
the blonde Bond, Daniel Craig's awesome too. It was a fight between Pierce Brosnan and Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig does all his own stunts. He's an actual stuntman, but he's not the dark-haired, suave, sophisticated. I mean, he has those qualities about him, but he's not as iconic and timeless, in my opinion.
And he doesn't personify that English gentleman look that Pierce Brosnan does, in my opinion. And Sean Connery, I liked him as Bond, But when I see him as more of the backstreet brawler Scottish Bond versus the English gentleman Bond.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like I used to be, the equivalent of a Navy SEAL.
Yes.
And now I put on a suit and I handle shit.
Yes.
And that's kind of what I get from Daniel Craig also. Like I used to be an ex-Special Force, ex-TAC guy, and now I'm putting on this suit and I'm kind of handling shit. And I have some smoothness to me and some quippy one-liners, but I really liked all the, is Pierce Brosnan James Bond. We had laser wristwatches and we had all these extravagant scientific inventions that he was receiving from Q that were almost borderline sci-fi.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of the appeal of James Bond too initially when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's move on up to Captain America.
Yeah.
Captain America.
Now, why did you put Captain America on the list, Ron?
No.
When Captain America throws his mighty shield.
No.
So we have Captain America on this list, but not Iron Man?
Okay, so Iron Man is not a traditional hero, so he made the anti-hero list. Check your notes.
Oh. Okay.
In an order that we won't reveal yet, because that's for spoiler for another.
Fine.
So he is the hero of his story, not to sidetrack it too much, but he's just more like he does things a little different way. You know what I'm saying?
Unconventional means.
Yes. He's willing to gray the lines more, so we put him in the anti-hero list.
Okay. Whereas Captain America pretty much always tries to make the...
He always tries to and does make the right decision, in my opinion.
Okay.
And he's the save everybody guy. He's we don't sacrifice lives for other lives.
We don't trade lives.
He's that, again, kind of like Superman, that indomitable spirit of justice, but he does have a little bit more complexity to him, especially in the Chris Evans portrayal in the cinematic universe, because he's a man displaced in time.
Yeah.
Superman would roast Captain America in like 2 seconds.
But in a fist fight,
This isn't a power level
Superman
scale.
would also beat up Ripley, Harry Potter, Rocky, Neo, and James Bond.
Yeah.
This isn't a power level reading. This is just an iconic hero
Okay.
list.
I honestly, when I saw the original Captain America movie, I thought, that's all right,
But did you all read any Captain America comics before that? Did you have anything to base it on either?
I really didn't have anything for him, but then when I saw Winter Soldier, I really became a big Captain America fan.
He had more character development.
Oh, yeah.
He was a man displaced in time. He was adjusting to the times. He's trying to find himself in this new, crazy, complex world.
Right.
I think that's really compelling. I think that speaks to a lot of people. And again, he has that indomitable fighting spirit before the serum, before anything.
I agree with that.
And we're looking at Captain America and as an overarching thing throughout the whole MCU. Like, we're not just talking about just the first movie. We're just, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Chris Evans,
yes,
all-encompassing portrayal.
Yeah, so we're including Civil War and Winter Soldier and everything, other movies he's been in.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Because if it only came out with the first one, the first Avenger, and there was no other movies, I don't know if he'd make my list.
Right. Yeah, I got it.
What are some things that you like about Captain America as a hero, Ron? Because I feel like this is one that you're less opposed to making the top 10.
Yeah, this one I'm all right with.
I don't know if you would have put him at number 3. But
I probably would disagree with this placement, but I mean, some of the things that I did like, he does always get back up. He's got this line, I could do this all day.
Yeah.
He's gonna continue the fight until you make him stop. You have to make him stop. Mm-hmm. And so that I think is admirable. I think that's definitely a heroic quality. The ability to pick yourself back up constantly.
Yeah, you'd have to kill him to make him stop.
Exactly. You're going to use every ounce of energy that you've got to be able to put yourself back into the fight. To be able to continue to do what you set out to do. So
100%.
Yeah, this is one that I will agree with.
Okay.
Awesome. Moving on. Number 2. Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
One of my personal favorites.
So you don't agree with where you put this on the list?
Why?
Ron,
Why?
I had no say in this list, and it's bullshit.
Right. Why is Indiana Jones number 2?
You don't like Indiana Jones is what you're saying?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I really enjoy Indiana Jones.
Would you put him on the top 10?
So what you're saying is you don't like Indiana Jones?
Would you put him in the top 10 if this was your
probably.
creation?
I mean, probably,
but not at number
Captain
2.
America?
I think, again, for me...
Okay, so I want to say for me, he kind of personifies like someone who I feel like I am like. And I don't mean like I'm an archaeologist or something, but when I was a kid, I was always interested.
You're not an archaeologist?
No. We're not talking about our personal lives here. So I was always interested in history, archaeology, just things from that era, just from talking to my grandfather and stuff. So who he was as a person was always interesting. That he was smart, but he was willing to go and try to find these things. Like, and this the swashbuckling style that everything he had was like interesting to me, and the things he was going after and what he stood for.
Okay.
So I think he's a good hero in that respect. He's like,
just don't give him any snakes.
He's like a better version. Well, everyone needs a weakness, buddy. Even Superman.
Kryptonite.
Yeah. So he's a better version of Bond in my opinion.
Okay.
Where he does awesome things a lot, and like he doesn't give up, but it's more realistic feeling than James Bond. So I don't know if what you were gonna say was gonna.
What I was going to say was the same. Yeah, he kind of has that intangible cool factor that James Bond mirrors, but at the same time, he's the kind of guy, while I admire James Bond and the kind of life he lives, I would never want to go have a beer with James Bond.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to go hang out with James Bond and you're going to drink martinis?
I would.
Not me, buddy.
I would.
Unless you're extremely attractive in a
I'd
dress.
be like,
you're
no,
not going to be drinking with James Bond.
I would dress up, and I would go and I'd be like, hey, you're James Bond, right? Let's go have a drink. Let's sit down. I'll buy whatever, and then, hey, so how do you like killing people?
But
like just start out with a weird conversation.
If you tried to play it out realistically in your mind, though, the reciprocation, I don't think would be there. I don't think James Bond would be as interested in you.
I'd be like, hey, I just
got shut down by Bond.
I just got shut down by Bond.
Indiana Jones seems like the kind of guy that you could like come up to and be like, hey, I bought a bottle of whiskey. Let's drink this thing, and then go step in a boxing ring and spar 12 rounds, and he'd be like, oh, you want to put some money on that? And that seems like my kind of guy. And he's still doing all the things. He's becoming more awesome, in overcoming the problem as it presents itself. He's out there. He's saying the smooth lines. He's making the quips. He's witty. He's a tenured professor. He's finding these mystical artifacts all over the world. He's adventuring. He's braving the jungles. He's going at it solo. He's saving the woman. He's got a leather jacket and a badass. He made a man bag cool. The only guy in any movie ever to make a man bag cool.
Yeah.
He's got a whip, so he's a little kinky. He's my kind of guy.
Oh yeah.
He speaks to that inner machismo male archetype. I think that's within myself. I can't speak for everyone, but it's a wish fulfillment, fantasy fulfillment.
I would say then that it seems like, from what I'm gathering from you guys, this isn't
and he's
about,
iconic as hell.
This isn't about like who is the most heroic.
No.
But who are your favorite heroes?
And iconicism.
And iconicism, too.
Okay.
I would argue that Indiana Jones is more iconic than Captain America, or James Bond, or Neo, or Rocky borderlines, but Rocky's so lame because he's not smooth talking. He has a speech impediment almost. I think I had a stroke in there, Mick. Keep fighting, Rock. We got 20 G's on this fight. There's a certain level of diminishing returns when it comes to unbelievably apt at handling adverse situations. And when you can do that and you keep style about you, that's a big cool points for me. And as far as being iconic to a wider variety of people over a larger spectrum of time, I think if you re-released all the movies that we talked about today, I think the Indiana Jones movies would be one of the series that does better than the others.
I think on this list we have right here, I would put the Indiana Jones movies on the top as far as like in 100 years they're still going to be watchable because of all these other ones are going to be, they're just so like, you could argue that Rocky would be a period piece too, but Rocky is just not interesting as far as like, it's not an interesting time.
Mm-hmm.
I think out of all these movies,
that pre World War II build up time is the best time in my opinion. It was like the turning point for America, the turning point for free society.
Well, and the morals too were so dead set. You know, what's right and wrong. Like, we're helping the Jews, we're killing Nazis. Everyone hates Nazis. We can all get behind this.
How
about Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull?
Buddy, that's not canon.
Hey, if you want to go into that, we're not talking about that.
Take off your headphones, step away from the mic, and leave now. Shia LaBeouf.
Okay.
Jesus.
Oh.
All right, so let's move on. Number 1.
Coming in at number 1.
Why did you pick this for number 1, Ron?
Oh, I'll tell you why I picked this one. Because Luke Skywalker is the man.
Is he?
He is the man.
Though?
He is.
Would it surprise you if I told you he would not make my list.
Oh my God, get out of here.
If we're doing iconicism, he has to make the list.
Yeah, because if we're going to divide this up by like what I think and iconicism, he's on my list. I don't think he'd be number one on my list though, on my personal list.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with that.
And we had to make certain
I'm also
concessions
fine
too.
with
I don't
him
know if he'd be number one on my list. And Rob and I created this together.
You guys made this list, and
I know, but
both
it's not
that.
But
Oh my God,
we're trying to look beyond our own
at the
scope.
beginning with Katniss Everdeen, we were trying to encompass what we thought other people would think too. Like we were trying to make an all-encompassing list.
I think your list makes my list for most ridiculous list.
Okay.
I want to see that top 10
Where does
list.
it come in at though?
It comes in at number one.
Wow.
Damn it,
Dude.
damn it!
Man, I feel like you're not on board.
Okay,
I don't think you've seen my other YouTube channel's list for top 10 anal sex scenes in a major cinematic production.
Man,
Because I think that would have made you number one for most ridiculous lists. Trust me, buddy.
Wow.
A lot of editing.
most ridiculous list today. So I do agree with Luke Skywalker being on this list. Number one, I mean, out of your picks on here, he definitely feels like number one material. Like top three for sure, I think. So, but why wouldn't he be on your list?
Oh, he would. He wouldn't be number one on my list.
Okay.
He's a little bland, in my opinion. He's a little whiny.
He starts out that way, but he doesn't end that way. He definitely has growth from that.
A little bit.
He has a ton of character growth.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Over the Ridge Tridge. Yeah. Like he grows a lot.
Although, I mean, I definitely think that The Last Jedi knocks him down multiple pegs.
He has an unshown growth, in my opinion. He definitely has the jumps between movies, and obviously there's a time difference and stuff. I like him as a character. He's definitely like, I'm not gonna knock him as a character. He's definitely like an epitome of the hero's journey. He's a good hero. He's got his power set. He does what he's supposed to do. He fights for what's right. He's a little bland, but I think part of it was the way they made movies back then was a little different, and it was like a new genre that they weren't really big into yet, into the sci-fi. They had a limited budget when they first started. I mean, they had a good budget, but it was limited for what they were trying to do and the special effects and stuff. So they didn't have the fight budget and stuff. He comes off to me just a little bland. He's definitely on my list though.
Okay.
I would agree with that. Super vanilla, but at the same time too,
Super vanilla number one.
That's not the criteria for the list. It's not a power set, top 10 power set list. It's not a who could beat who in a fight. It's a mix of all those factors, including the intangibles. The big thing Luke Skywalker has going for him, man, is that it's 30 years, 40 years after the original release of the first Star Wars movie, and he's reappearing in multi-million-dollar box office successions to that. I mean, this is the umpteenth Star Wars movie, and it's still raked in, whatever, $25 quadrillion.
Even though it wasn't good.
Yeah, we'll see how episode 9
But that's the thing. He's so iconic. He's still riding the steam from 1970, whatever. And
as hard as they tried to make him a horrible character, he still makes number one on our list.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's the other thing too, is that Mark Hamill's portrayal of him, especially as a young man in the original trilogy, he was that identifiable, skinny, blonde kid who didn't have a big imposing figure about him. He wasn't particularly cool. He wasn't even particularly strong mentally. He was whiny. He was annoying. But I think a lot of people, consciously or not, can relate to that, and they watch him develop into a strong character that, even though he doesn't necessarily have all the skills he needs at the moment, he has faith in the Force to help him develop or portray those skills at the right moments. Kind of like the Harry Potter thing. Even though he might stumble into these situations or stumble into the solutions of these situations, his willingness to put himself there and believe that he could find a solution grants him the solution 9 times out of 10. And we do see a little bit of character growth. We see him on Dagobah, I believe, right, with Yoda lifting the.
Well, yeah, he's learning how to use the Force properly.
And he's training. It's not like with Rey in these new movies where we just see her like, now I can use all the Force powers and I didn't have to train at all. I didn't have to do handstands. I didn't have to lift Yoda on my back, who weighs who knows how much. Maybe he's real dense. He's pretty strong.
He could be.
He's like a chimpanzee. He's just carved out of fucking wood. But she, we didn't see any of that training. Boner you have.
Boner I have.
Yoda, why are you poking me in the back with your lightsaber? Noah's lightsaber.
More backflips you will do.
But, we got to see a little bit of that character growth.
Yeah.
And he's so cool for that because it's like the training montage. It's like with the Rocky movies. It's like with the super soldier serum scene in Captain America. Seeing the, not necessarily hard work that goes into it, but seeing the development or the process, even if it's not based on merit or effort, seeing the process, especially when it is based on merit or effort, however, of the person going from the everyman to the everyman's hero is inspiring, and it's awe-inspiring. And overcoming your father, overcoming a semi-incestuous relationship with your sister. I mean, these are the struggles that people
Everyone
relate
goes
to,
through.
man.
Everyone.
It's just an everyman's journey.
Yeah.
Really big in Louisiana. Actually, this
You just
movie
have
is
to make it
super
weird.
big in Louisiana. So that comes in at our number 1. So as a review from 10 to 1, Katniss Everdeen. Number 9, Superman. Number 8, Ripley from Alien. Number 7, Harry Potter. Number 6, Rocky Balboa. Number 5, Neo. Number 4, James Bond, as portrayed by Pierce Brosnan. Number 3, Captain America. Number 2, Indiana Jones. And coming in at number 1, Luke Skywalker.
And everyone agrees with this.
Yep, there's no dispute,
Yeah.
and no one can ever dispute this list. And if you do in the comments, guess we'll just have to totally argue with you for hours of our life.
I just spent this entire time disputing this list.
And you are banned from the channel.
All right, guys.
We know you don't mean it.
So we're going to go ahead and bring this very strange list video to a close.
And by very strange, he means super awesome.
And very well thought out with no plot holes.
Right. So once again, do remember to hit like and subscribe to our channel if you enjoyed this content. And also feel free to leave us a comment, especially about our choices on the list. Well, not my choices, their choices.
Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave us your top 10
Yes,
list.
please let us know how much you disagree with their choices.
We look forward to hearing from you.
All right.
Make sure to hit that notification bell, and thanks for tuning in to 3 Scoops Podcast. I'm Kel.
I'm Ron.
And I'm Rob.
All right. We'll
Bye.
talk to you guys later.
Late.